Fujifilm JPEGs are unbelievable, fabulous, great looking. But what if you wanted to get your RAW files a little bit closer or even better, is that possible? Than your Fujifilm JPEGs. Today we're using Lightroom. A lot of Fujifilm users will straight out recommend Capture One, but a lot of people have Lightroom, use Lightroom, so we're using Lightroom. Sorry. Okay, so let's jump in. If you notice, this is my JPEG, and also everything is zeroed, except I usually give about 1/3 of an exposure. Fujifilm tends to underexpose by 1/3. So that is the JPEG, and here is the RAW, so we can compare. And whoa, don't get so close, bird. This is why most people just will use the JPEG straight out of camera. Now, obviously you can edit your JPEG, but we're not doing that in this video. We're just gonna show you really quickly what you can do. So if you go over here to your Lightroom, there's the little profile for color. Just click that dude there. You wanna go to camera matching and basically pick which one you would like. Now this is a wildlife picture with green, so I probably would go Velvia or Provia Standard. Let's just do Provia Standard for now. I'm gonna go give a little vibrance. Bring down the blacks and maybe a little texture. And let's check it really quick compared to here's the RAW on the left, and there is the JPEG. So just with those couple of clicks, you can see, and this is especially useful for beginners who don't know why their RAW files look so terrible. And it's because a RAW file really is a lot of information in the shadows, in the highlights, and it's kind of like a blank slate that you can add things to. Okay, this delicious tapa egg dish. I had this in Spain. It was amazing. It was like lobster with egg, and these are little shaved potatoes. Oh my God. This thing was the best thing I ate in Spain the whole time. But then if you look at the RAW file, you're like, ugh, I ain't eating that. So let's try to get this guy close to what the JPEG was thinking. And really, as you'll see in this video, as I go through the examples, sometimes the JPEG does a better job than we can do. But this will at least get you playing with your RAWs, which will help you, maybe find a look that you like. Okay, so quickly, I'll go to my Adobe Color, get rid of that, and just have, I think here Velvia is a little crazy. I'm gonna go with, let's see, where's the egg look a little more orange? How about Pro Neg? Pro Neg High, Pro Neg High. I'm gonna go with the standard again. You know what, let's do Ostia Soft. I'm gonna go up here, ooh, never mind. I'm gonna go to Provia Standard, give it a little vibrance. I know my shadows on the JPEG are probably up. By the way, I usually shoot with -1 shadow. For example, my JPEGs don't come in very black like this. So I know I'm probably at -1 shadow here. So what I'll do is I'll probably bring the blacks up just a bit. It's nice for food. Bring the blacks up, bring the shadows up just a tad. So I brought my blacks up to sort of match what I do with the JPEGs. Vibrance is up, texture, I think that looks pretty good. So here is my JPEG, and here is my delicious Tapa RAW, baby. RAW on the right this time. And that looks good. I like that. Okay, this is a classic example where your Fujifilm camera in auto white balance gets things wrong. I made a whole video on this last year, and I'll link it up below. But if you use auto white balance, sometimes the camera gets confused and gives you a cooler image. And you obviously can warm it up, but temperature changes in JPEGs don't work as well as they do in RAW. So if you go to the RAW actually looks uglier right away. Here's the JPEG, here's the RAW. But again, bam, and I'm definitely going to Velvia here, baby. We got nice leaves, so I'm gonna hit that. And already it's, if you notice from there to there, it's totally improved, but the white balance is still off, so I can let's not go nuts. I can warm up this fall scene, bring my blacks down a bit, give it some texture, baby. I don't even need vibrance, because oh yeah, vibrance it up. Shadows, shadows, shadows. That's a little crazy, but let's brighten it up a little bit. And I'm not gonna use the curve too much, but you obviously can go down to the curve and start going nuts with, making an S curve. I did a video on that too, how to work curves. Yo, that is crazy vibrant. But here's what I mean. This is the JPEG straight out of camera that you're not happy with, and then just by finagling the raw a little bit, you might be happier with your fall scene. Okay, here we have one of those ducks. I think that's what it is. And what we're gonna do is quickly, same method, bam. This time I'm gonna go Provia Standard. Close that. I'm gonna go Vibrance Nuts until it's not nuts. And shadows up, kind of what I usually do on my camera. 1/3 stop up. Texture. I probably would sharpen this image as well, but let's check out JPEG and RAW and see what we got. So JPEG and the RAW. So I pretty much got the RAW to look kind of like the JPEG a little bit, give or take. And so I'm happy with my duck RAW. All right, I know it's a chicken. All right, street photography scene. Street photography scene, I love this. She's like, what the? I can't bypass that. She needs like someone with the coat to put it over the puddle. But so this would be a really nice black and white, but I ain't gonna do that. This is straight out of camera JPEG. And this is an example where it's good to use your RAW because this was taken in the shadow here. But if you notice way back over here, this is in bright sunlight. And in a RAW file, you can control that just a little bit better. So here is the RAW, which kind of is like, meh. So JPEG, RAW, which gets all flow. But I'm gonna try, I probably shot that scene in JPEG Standard. So I'm gonna hit that. You know what? Let's just use Classic Chrome. I don't really love Classic Chrome, but here's an example of where you can change your film simulation from what your JPEG did. So maybe this works better in Classic Chrome, kind of like that, you know, hipster style film look. Let's make that. So I'm gonna hit Classic Chrome, bam, shadows up because she's kind of in shadows, blacks, bring up that. And the highlights we could bring down from the street back there. You see those highlights, we can bring them back down from the street. And nice. No, ugh, I don't like Classic Chrome so much. Let's see if we bring up the vibrance a little bit. Oh, that's so ugly. Okay, it's ugly. It's ugly. Let's warm it up a bit. That's the problem. It wasn't warm enough. And by the way, if the highlights in the background are really a problem, you can have a brush that has your exposure and highlight down. Just make sure auto mask is not on. You could go nuts. Oh yeah, let's bring that down. And of course, double click. Bring stuff down just a little bit more back there so you have a little bit even. Then you can even take like, we're going nuts here. We're going nuts. This is so off topic, but it's helpful. If she's our main focus, we could put a little ring around her. Boop, bring up the exposure there. Oh my gosh, look at that. So before, after, before, after. So you bring more of the, you know, focus to where the image is there. Okay, so now let's check out the original JPEG compared to the RAW. And so this is an example of where you want to work in the RAW because the highlights and shadows are so completely uneven, and working with that in a JPEG is dumb. Don't do it. Now portraits are tricky because the Fujifilm camera is like amazing at taking straight out of camera a JPEG where the skin looks great and everything looks fantastic. So this one is a little bit of a struggle, but when you bring your RAW in, let me bring this. This exposure is a little bit over. So let me bring this. Oh, sorry, my blacks were down there. So this is kind of what it would look like out of camera. Great, right? Like it's done. And I agree with that. It's totally done. So let's try the usual. Now for a portrait, I would probably pick Ostia Soft. It seems to have a little bit more of an orange to the skin. Let's try Pro Neg High on this one. Close, bring the vibrance up. Let's see. So here's one of those examples where I kind of like the JPEG better. I mean, it just happens. This is using Provia. It's just a little punchier, a little blacker. So yeah, Provia Standard, that works. Okay, next up a landscape. I took this with the Rokinon 12mm f2 lens. That's a great lens. Kids are walking, and the raw file looks like butt. Sometimes Velvia is a little bit too colorful. Let's go Ostia Soft on this guy and bring the vibrance up just a tad. My daughter's wearing a white shirt, so I can kind of check white balance there a little bit. Don't love what it did with white balance. Oh, it must have hit a shadow there. So this is a little whiter there. That looks nice. Let's cool it down just a little bit. And shadows up. Okay, let's leave it there. Let's not go crazy and check it. Oh man, the JPEG is better. Sorry. So this is kind of like a white balance issue. So let's bring the reds over, and that should have fixed it quite a bit. Yes, it has. Okay, these will vary because of white balance. But again, that's something great about shooting RAW is you can mess with your white balance a lot better. Here's the JPEG, and a lot of like aftermarket lenses don't match with what Fujifilm is trying to do with the JPEGs. I found that with my Zone Lie lens, it had sort of like a brownish hue to it. So this is an aftermarket lens as well, and so the white balance from aftermarket lenses will vary, and which is why here, when I shot RAW, I can cool the image down to what I want. And I can make it just a little bit more landscapey, vibrant kind of thing. Okay, here's a landscape example of the street photography one where there's a lot of highlights. If I try to bring the highlights down from a JPEG, it's really ugly in the upper right portion of the photograph. Trying to recover JPEG highlights is kind of a lost cause. The RAW gives you a little bit more latitude there when you're trying to, save things. Going to the develop module here. RAW is ugly. But I'm gonna bring those highlights down. I'm gonna bring the shadows up. Oh yeah, vibrance. Oh, I didn't pick. Oh my God, that's Adobe Color. Get the heck out of here. Ooh, Velvia, baby. I'm gonna sell a print. Yo. Look at that. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Let's not go nuts with the vibrance, man. I mean, Velvia is already crazy. So maybe something like that. So here's the JPEG. Here's the RAW because I messed with the shadows. Okay, architecture. This is in Spain, and I took this photograph and looked at the back of the camera, and I remember thinking colors look good, contrast look good, and of course you open up your JPEG and you're like, that looks worse, so I'm not even gonna touch that. But you can make your JPEGs better. Just grab the Doomababub, and I'm gonna grab Velvia again, because that's such a vibrant and punchy. You know what, let's not use that. Let's use standard, because that's what I shot with. I shot with standard, so let's look at standard to standard. And looks like shadows are up. Shadow +1, but I can bring my blacks down. Vibrance and texture probably a little bit like that. Let's leave it like that and look at the two. Just from those few slides, you can see the JPEG isn't as punchier and like it doesn't have as much meat as the RAW does from those few clicks. Your JPEG probably will be better at sharpening, but with the new texture tool, Lightroom is a little bit better at having a nice sharpening, but you can kind of sometimes, if you start pixel peeping, see the difference. Now you may want to make a preset instead of going each time. If you only like Provia Standard, maybe you could add that to all your RAWs so that you don't need to see them ugly. And so I'll show you that really quick, but really quick, here's Central Park on the left, straight out of camera with a JPEG. And here it is on the right with the RAW. Let's get that RAW exactly where we want it. That's no typewriter. Let's get this RAW. Okay, let's do it with only like 3 clicks. So what we'll do is we'll go standard. Okay, let's get the film simulation done. Let's bring click number 2 up. The exposure doesn't count as a click, okay? And let's bring the blacks down just a little bit. So that's like about 3 clicks, and let's see if we compare the two. JPEG on the left, and now my RAW on the right already looks like the JPEG about when I took it in camera. So now I wanna keep that as a preset. All right, so in the develop module, just hit your little preset. You could create a preset, put it in Fuji edits, and you could just make sure all this stuff is clicked except white balance and exposure, because you don't want to change those. Every scene is different. So you want to call this, hey, my Provia for RAW. Put that in Fuji edits, bam, and there it is there. And what you want to do is when you come to a new image, let's say this typewriter, and you come over here to the ugly RAW, well, you can go to my Provia, boom, and it's already set to go. So then it kind of already looks like what it did from the JPEG as opposed to doing all those steps. Acros straight out of camera is probably the one you don't want to mess with. That one, the JPEGs are great. So I love shooting acros. Like for example, this bridge is in acros with a red filter to bring the blue sky down. And so let's reset this guy. Let's see what this guy looks like. So this is what the bridge looks like there. Now you could flat out just use the black and white tools in, you could just struggle to try to get yourself an acros looking image. So and this is why black and white is weird. You can go in any direction for black and white. Let's try to use the acros they have. Acros with a red filter. Here we go. Comparing JPEG on the left and the raw on the right. They have different tones. It seems like the straight out of camera acros film simulation has a little bit more of a brown tone, and the Lightroom seems to be a little blue tone. My whole point being is that black and white can go in any direction, and so I probably wouldn't use this method for acros. I would just flat out make my own black and white. I'll link up some more tutorials below that might help with your editing, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!